Hey traders, checking in on the crypto space. The bears are back in short-term control as our tightening range has broken bearish. What is the outlook from here? Are we headed back to our lows? I'll highlight a key pattern that I'm watching on the 12-hour time frame, and we'll talk about keeping ourselves in check when reality sometimes doesn't align with what we want to happen. So here's Bitcoin daily time frame, and we had our tightening 12-hour range. We'll look at that first, and it broke bear. So we had our high, low, lower high, higher low, lower high, bear break. So at this point, we are back in a daily downtrend because we went from a higher low, higher high, higher low, lower high, and now we lost our last higher low of support. So what does that mean? It means we're in a weekly and a daily downtrend looking for a monthly higher low. Short term, we have many time frames and downtrends. Long term, we're looking for the monthly higher low. So again, it depends on what time frame you're looking at as far as what direction you're looking in as the most likely scenario. But short term, the bears are back in control. And that's really important for us to recognize and admit, because I could be sitting here and making excuses for bulls, but we have to stay as unbiased as possible. I want cryptocurrency to go up. I make more money when it goes up. People are happier when it goes up, but we have to call it like it is. And we have had the bears in complete control ever since we confirmed the weekly downtrend with the break of 47,000. And since then, we haven't seen much follow through. We confirmed the daily trend change. We got 3% of follow through, and then we confirmed a daily downtrend. That is not nearly enough for bulls to prove anything to me. That being said, I still have my positions anticipating, or I should say, making an attempt for these monthly higher lows. When am I going to exit? I will exit when I stop out of those positions, break even, and I'll go right back to scouting another position, looking for monthly higher lows. So that is the way that I am trading in the space right now. It wouldn't be a productive way if this were my primary source of income, was trading cryptocurrency, because I would just be leaving a bunch of profit on the table on this most recent move, and I wouldn't be locking in and acquiring gains for my income, essentially. But I am primarily a stock trader, and that is my primary source of income. So I am perfectly fine keeping crypto secondary, letting it play out, knowing worst case scenario, I just give back some profit and continuing to trade stocks. So that is the way that I am approaching the space currently at this point in time. We had an hourly head and shoulders pattern that really changed everything here. And you could see the bears playing defense. We had 35.1 thousand as the resistance level in our 4-hour equilibrium. And the last video that we checked in on, we were looking for a 4-hour higher low to form right here. We got it. We rejected from resistance, and then the bears won in a big way. So the resistance rejection, you could see it was intentionally being defended by the bears. And what do I mean by intentionally being defended? I mean the bulls had complete control. We headed to that level, and then we saw the bears strike with market sells. So here's that move up. Here's us testing resistance, and here's 5 minutes of just solid market sells to ensure a rejection from that price. And then we formed an hourly head and shoulders. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder, and it was game over from there. I would have anticipated that an hourly head and shoulders would have led to a 4-hour higher low remaining in an equilibrium. But the bears followed through. What is one reason the bears followed through? Well, if you look at it happen from 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern yesterday, and we did see a lot of broader market weakness overnight for the first time in a long time. So the S&P 500 futures, this is what was happening overnight, but it didn't get ugly. You know, we were still trading. We were pulling back at that point in time, but really when the weakness really kicked in was 2 to 6, and at that point, Bitcoin had already broken some supports bearish, and that really just helped with another leg down here. Another pattern that's been fairly recent is flags lacking follow through, and it's the second bear flag. And this is the third time this has happened, where we have a bear flag on the hourly confirm, and then we had another one here confirm, and the second one gets 0 follow through. And I'm just recalling within the last week, that's happened 3 times, I think twice on the hourly and once on the 15-minute time frame, where it's just a sign of bear exhaustion, essentially, confirming that second bear flag. And we were also already in hourly RSI levels approaching the teens. So we currently have a bounce attempt going on, and we technically confirmed an hourly trend change here back to the bulls, but again, zero follow through. So that's just having us watch for the potential of a 4-hour bear flag. And at this point in time, it is a 4-hour bear flag. I would need to see these bulls get over 33,500 if we're going to negate the 4-hour bear flag that is currently forming. If it confirms, we'll be in 4-hour oversold conditions, and the only support levels that we're looking at are 30.1 thousand and 28.8. So there's not a lot of support in this range. So bottom line, weekly and daily downtrend, and I personally, every step of the way, have been skeptical of the bulls. And I will remain skeptical of bulls. I want the bulls to win, but they're not proving it to me. So I'm not going to make excuses for them. There's no increasing bull volume. There's no follow through on the daily trend change. So definitely leaves a lot to be desired. Mod Step 2 in the chat room is looking for a 3-day to potentially form a higher low. He's using the 3-day time frame where we topped out on the bounce. And if we hold the low and then break that high, that would be a potential shift. I've only got one EMA on my chart here. Anyways, I'm watching the 12-hour time frame. This 12-hour support line is something that I was keeping an eye on as this bounce was attempting to get going, and we formed our daily higher low off of it. This was the daily higher low. We had a big bounce, and then, are we giving it all back? It looked like we were, but that was our daily higher low off of this downtrending support line. And with that, we now have a downtrending resistance line as well, with a lot of these lower highs hitting that line. So I really like this chart for clarity, just as far as all of these touches, both of support and of resistance. So there is a possible scenario where if we were to drop down, depending on how long it takes, but we could potentially double bottom right around 28.8 or break it with zero follow through straight into another bounce. But one thing is for sure, the 12-hour lower highs are very clear here, and the resistance and support lines are very clear as well. So this is what I'm going to be keeping an eye on from here. What are my actions now? I'm not doing anything. I don't have confidence in either direction. If I had, there's definitely hedging short opportunities, or there's just shorting opportunities looking for lower highs. I mean, right now, bears are comfortable scouting 4-hour lower high for a bearish entry. But personally, it's a bit choppy over the last 2 weeks. And if we see a break of 28.8, depending on what it looks like when we break those levels, if we break 28.8 in 2 days, it's going to be a lot different look than if we break it in 9 days. So hard to say what things will look like if that bear break does come into play. But I will certainly still be interested. Again, I've got a lot of cash that is just waiting for more opportunity. And I deployed some of it the last time we flushed under 30,000. And I wouldn't be too upset if there were further downside. And really what it turns into is the further we pull back on the monthly before we set a higher low, anything above 9,800, the better the gains will be before we scout that monthly lower high. At this point, a monthly lower high, people talking about a new all-time high this year, I don't think that's on the table unless there was some kind of massive news catalyst. At this point, we're just looking for the monthly higher low and then a monthly lower high and tightening ranges probably through a good chunk of 2022. But first things first, have to set that monthly higher low. No indication of it just yet. And again, 2 lower wicks holding the EMA 12. Currently a monthly inside bar. Long way to go. We'll see if it forms a monthly inside bar. But look at how NIO formed its monthly higher low. Inside bar, lower wicks holding EMA 12. Bear break with zero follow through. And that was the bounce. So if that were going to be the same setup as Bitcoin, which I'm certainly not assuming is going to happen, but it would be an inside bar in July, a bear break in August with zero follow through into the bounce into the fall. But that is certainly not something that I'm going to be anticipating as likely. It's just a familiar setup that I am watching, and we'll see. But the bears have complete control in the short term. And it's a simple statement now. If 36,000 is resistance, then the bears have complete control. Step number 1 for regaining any control is getting over that resistance level for the bulls. With this drop today, the dominance chart is bouncing. which tells us the altcoins are dropping faster than Bitcoin is as the weekly equilibrium on the dominance chart continues to tighten up. We are scouting a weekly high or low, anything above 41.21. Is this our weekly high or low forming? It's possible, but the bulls have a lot of proving to do. And again, I know it's not actual bulls on this chart, but that's the terminology we use. We would have to see a big enough move for a daily trend change to try and set up for a weekly high or low to be set. Ethereum. So Ethereum losing the daily uptrend. And this is one where we had bull breaks that just lacked follow through because Bitcoin was not breaking bullish at the same point in time. And whenever you have bull breaks with a lack of follow through, you scout rising wedges. And this was a rising wedge on ETH that broke bearish. And if we zoomed in, we could draw the trend lines a little bit differently. That's pretty good though. So bear break, loss of the daily higher lows. What does that mean from here? It means we're looking at $2,017 support, and the weekly time frame, we're looking for the potential of a bear flag. We had a lower high every single week. We broke that pattern, and the retracement of this bounce compared to where we came from is very weak. So it is absolutely a weekly bear flag at this point, unless the bulls prove otherwise. So from a weekly perspective, if we are under 2,400, it's a potential weekly bear flag. And again, the monthly time frame, we are looking for a higher low. There's a ton of space for it to form. And if the weekly bear flag confirms, we'll be headed towards a test of monthly EMA 12, which hasn't been touched yet. ETH BTC, daily pullback. So we correlated on the way up. We're correlating on consolidation, which is why we're dropping harder. And the weekly time frame, we know we're scouting a weekly lower high, anything under 7786. So the question over the next few days into the weekend is going to be, are these our alt BTC pairings setting weekly lower highs? Is that the top of the bounce, essentially, for these pairings? Binance we were watching for its bull break that took place as it got real tight. And again, the negative headlines not mattering as far as the chart. When you break 315, 316 double top, bulls got a nice amount of follow through. We ended up with almost 10% of follow through to the upside, I believe. Sometimes your brain just stops working at math. 8%. Solid move, but consolidating and looking for a daily higher low to try and form. There are still some alts that do still have daily uptrends intact, and obviously they want to maintain those higher lows. And it was the BNB BTC chart that broke bullish, confirming a daily trend change, increasing bull volume, and that helped the bulls have confidence on that US dollar pairing bull break. But we're watching for the potential of a weekly lower high here as well. It's just not as clear as the pullback on ETH currently is. Matic we were watching from the last video to be a laggard. We were watching for a weekly inside bar to break bull. And the only thing looking back in hindsight is nice that it didn't fake out. You know, we just had a scenario where Bitcoin broke bearish and we didn't get a chance for the Matic bulls to act as laggards. It would have been very frustrating if we broke this inside bar bullish and then Bitcoin broke bearish. But in the end, really, the trade just never triggered. So we had daily resistance unable to break. Just lower highs every bounce. 125, double top. 118, double top. EMA 12 resistance, and then rolling over and heading towards support. So if we stay tight here, then I'll still watch the pattern of a lower high every week for it to potentially break. But overall, a lot less interested in this being a laggard play. Here's the BTC pairing failing to break resistance. But I'm a lot less interested in it being a laggard play because Bitcoin got the bear break. If Bitcoin broke the 12-hour equilibrium bullish, I would certainly be watching for Matic to see an individual pump to play laggard. But didn't work out this time, and no signals were given for a bullish entry. ICP USDT is a lead bear. And you have to be watching this, and we can see a massive bounce when the scales tilted, but we never changed the trend. And again, there are plenty of stocks that have examples of this. ACB is an MJ stock, and it is the king of huge short squeezes with inability to change the daily trend bullish, where we just short squeeze and then give it all back. And it just continues to do this. I mean, here's a good one where you go 300%, never set a daily higher low and higher high, and then you just slowly give it all back. So it's the scales being supply outweighing demand and you're dropping forever. You finally flip the scales, but it's for a short period of time and it doesn't show sustained follow through. So the inability of the bulls to set a daily higher low and higher high shows me shorts piled right back on and no longs were there to buy the dip. Essentially, the buying pressure of longs looking for a daily higher low was not enough to offset the selling pressure from wherever the selling pressure is coming from. So we stay in a daily downtrend, which is why trend changes from prolonged moves in one direction are so important. Impulse flip is definitely worthwhile for trading, but bulls never proved it. So now we have a lack of support and we're looking back down towards 28-26 support, and the BTC pairing did the exact same thing. We're correlated in both directions. And at this point, we're really just watching that low of 28-26. And if that breaks, we're back to seeing the bears in absolute complete control. And it would be a weekly bear flag. But there will be a potential play off that low. It depends on what Bitcoin's doing at that point in time. So keeping an eye on 28-26 as the only clear support level nearby. All right, we'll take it one day at a time. Bears have complete control. Bears are playing on daily downtrends, those 12-hour lower highs, that downtrending resistance line. Bulls are watching to see how much follow-through the bears are going to put together, keeping an eye on that downtrending 12-hour support line, but really knowing that the bulls' backs are against the wall with a limited amount of support, and it would require a significant recovery very soon, within the next few days ideally. Otherwise, we're going to look down towards those two support levels on the daily with little else to be looking at. All right, have those game plans established. Hope you are well. Do good things, and we'll see you next time.
You be a good girl? Yeah, that's a good girl. These sunflowers are easily 8+ feet tall. Probably more like 9 or 10 at this point. Starting to harvest the first cucumbers. Some of them I didn't realize that they would be this easily stuck within the chicken wire. So some of them are getting pinched.